Welcome to my channel StarWire Daily. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Picture this. It's a quiet evening in the Hollywood Hills. The paparazzi have gone home, the red carpets have been rolled up, and in a dimly lit room, one of the world's most enigmatic actors sits across from a journalist, his weathered hands wrapped around a cup of black coffee. For decades, Johnny Depp has been Hollywood's beautiful enigma. A man who transformed into pirates, Mad Hatters, and dark wizards with such conviction that we almost forgot there was a real person beneath all those characters. But tonight, something is different. What you're about to hear isn't just another celebrity interview. It's the moment when Johnny Christopher Depp II, the boy from Kentucky who conquered Hollywood, finally decided to pull back the curtain on the man behind the myth. And trust me, what he revealed will change everything you thought you knew about one of cinema's most captivating figures. You see, for over 4 decades in the spotlight, Johnny Depp has been a master of reinvention. From his early days as a teen heartthrob on 21 Jump Street to his Oscar-nominated performances that redefined what it meant to be a character actor, he's always been just out of reach, always mysterious, always leaving us wanting more. But recently, in a moment of unprecedented vulnerability, he shared something that no amount of method acting or carefully crafted interviews had ever prepared us for. This revelation didn't come during a glossy magazine photo shoot or a carefully orchestrated press junket. It emerged during what was supposed to be a routine conversation about his latest project, when the interviewer asked a simple question that seemed to crack something open inside him. "Johnny," they said, "after all these years, all these characters, who are you when the cameras stop rolling?" What happened next was pure, unfiltered Johnny Depp. No scripts, no publicists whispering in his ear, no carefully rehearsed anecdotes. Just raw honesty from a man who had spent his entire adult life hiding in plain sight. He leaned back in his chair, those famous dark eyes reflecting decades of experience, triumph, and yes, pain. "You know," he began, his voice carrying that distinctive gravelly warmth we've come to love, "I've been thinking about this question my entire career, and I'm not sure I've ever had a real answer until now." But before we dive into what he said next, and believe me, it's going to surprise you, we need to understand how we got here. Because Johnny's revelation isn't just about one moment of clarity. It's the culmination of a journey that began long before he ever stepped foot on a movie set. Born in Owensboro, Kentucky, Johnny's childhood was anything but stable. His family moved constantly, over 20 times before he turned 15. His father was a civil engineer, his mother a waitress, and their marriage was turbulent at best. Johnny often speaks about feeling like an outsider from an early age, never quite fitting in anywhere they landed. But here's what most people don't know. It was during one of these moves when Johnny was 12 that his mother gave him something that would change his life forever. Not acting classes or headshots, but a guitar. A cheap acoustic guitar from a pawn shop that she could barely afford. She told him, "Maybe this will give you something that's always yours, no matter where we end up." And that guitar became his sanctuary. While other kids were playing sports or hanging out at malls, Johnny was in his room, teaching himself to play, losing himself in music. He formed a band called The Kids. And yes, they were actually pretty good. Good enough to open for Iggy Pop, good enough that for a brief, shining moment, Johnny thought music might be his escape from the chaos of his family life. But life had other plans. In 1983, at just 20 years old, Johnny married Lori and Allison. It was young love, the kind that burns bright and fast. But more importantly, Lori was connected to the entertainment industry. She introduced Johnny to Nicolas Cage. Yes, that Nicolas Cage, who saw something in this quiet, intense young man with the guitar. "You should try acting," Cage told him. And with those 4 words, one of cinema's greatest careers was born. But here's the thing that Johnny revealed in that recent interview, something he's never shared before. He never actually wanted to be an actor. Not really. When he walked into that first audition for A Nightmare on Elm Street, he was terrified. Not of acting, but of success. He was afraid that if he succeeded, he'd lose the thing that had always been his music, his privacy, his ability to disappear. "I was this kid from Kentucky who just wanted to play guitar and be left alone," he said, his voice growing quieter. But suddenly, I was thrust into this world where everyone wanted to know everything about me, and I realized I had no idea how to be myself in public. So he did what any brilliant artist would do. He disappeared into characters. First, it was the brooding teen detective Tom Hansen in 21 Jump Street. Johnny has admitted that he hated being a teen heartthrob, hated having his poster on bedroom walls, hated being reduced to just a pretty face. So he began making choices that would subvert expectations. When 21 Jump Street ended, he could have easily transitioned into romantic comedies or action movies. Instead, he chose to work with Tim Burton on Edward Scissorhands. It was 1990, and nobody knew who Tim Burton really was yet. The script was weird, dark, and completely uncommercial. Johnny's agents thought he was crazy. That's when I realized something, Johnny revealed. I was more comfortable being Edward, this creature who couldn't touch anything without destroying it, than I was being Johnny Depp, the movie star. And that's when his pattern began. Character after character, each one more elaborate and strange than the last. Ed Wood, the eccentric filmmaker. Raoul Duke in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, channeling Hunter S. Thompson's manic energy. The Mad Hatter, Jack Sparrow, Sweeney Todd. Each one a mask, each one a way to hide while performing in front of millions. But the character that changed everything? Captain Jack Sparrow. When Johnny first read the script for Pirates of the Caribbean, it was a straightforward adventure movie. Jack Sparrow was written as a conventional action hero. But Johnny had other ideas. He disappeared into his process, as he always did, but this time something magical happened. He based Jack's mannerisms on Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones and the cartoon character Pepe Le Pew. He gave him gold teeth, a distinctive walk, and that now famous accent that nobody could quite place. When he showed up on set for the first day of filming, the Disney executives were horrified. Is he drunk? One executive supposedly asked. Is he supposed to be gay? Asked another. They wanted to fire him immediately. But director Gore Verbinski saw what Johnny was doing. He was creating something entirely new, a character that was both masculine and feminine, dangerous and silly, unpredictable and deeply charming. It was everything Hollywood heroes weren't supposed to be. And it worked. Pirates of the Caribbean became a massive franchise. Jack Sparrow became a cultural icon, and Johnny Depp became one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. For a decade, he could do no wrong. Every weird choice, every strange character, every collaboration with Tim Burton was celebrated as genius. But here's what nobody saw coming, and what Johnny finally revealed in that interview. His success was killing him. People think that when you're successful in Hollywood, when you're making millions of dollars and everyone knows your name, that you've made it, he said, his voice heavy with something that sounded like regret. But the truth is, the more successful I became, the further away I got from the person I actually was. He talked about the pressure of always having to be on, of never being able to just exist without someone analyzing his every move. He talked about the way fame turned relationships into transactions, how he could never be sure if people genuinely cared about him or just what he represented. And then came the lawsuits, the tabloid headlines, the very public dissolution of his marriage to Amber Heard, played out in courtrooms and on social media for the world to dissect. For the first time in his career, Johnny Depp couldn't hide behind character. He was forced to be himself in public under the most brutal circumstances imaginable. That's when I realized, he continued, that I had spent so many years being other people that I had forgotten how to be me. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. During those dark years, when his career seemed over and his reputation was in tatters, Johnny rediscovered something he thought he had lost forever, his music. He started playing guitar again, not for movies or characters, but just for himself. He reconnected with old friends from his band days. He remembered what it felt like to create something purely for the joy of creation, without the pressure of box office numbers or critical reviews. Music saved me, he said simply. It reminded me who I was before all of this. And that brings us to his shocking revelation, the truth he's never shared before. When that interviewer asked him who he was when the camera stopped rolling, Here's what Johnny Depp said. "I'm just a guy who plays guitar and tells stories. Everything else, the fame, the characters, the movie star thing, that was never really me. That was just a very elaborate performance that got out of hand." He went on to explain that every character he's ever played was, in some way, a version of the person he wished he could be in real life. Edward Scissorhands was about the fear of hurting people you love. The Mad Hatter was about embracing madness instead of fighting it. Jack Sparrow was about freedom and refusing to be tied down by other people's expectations. "I spent 40 years hiding behind characters because I was afraid that if people saw the real me, they'd be disappointed," he admitted. "Turns out, the real me was there all along. I just forgot how to look." What's particularly moving about this revelation is the timing. Johnny shared this at a point in his career when he has nothing left to prove and nothing left to lose. The massive franchises are behind him. The tabloid drama has settled. He's in his 60s now, with silver in his hair and lines around those famous eyes. And for the first time in decades, he seems peaceful. He's been performing with his band, Hollywood Vampires, alongside Alice Cooper and Joe Perry. He's been taking smaller, more personal acting projects. He's been painting and writing and doing all the things that famous actors aren't supposed to do because they don't maintain their brand. "I don't want a brand," he laughed when asked about this. "I want a life." And perhaps that's the most shocking revelation of all. That Johnny Depp, the man who made a career out of transformation, who convinced us he could become anyone, is finally comfortable being no one in particular. Just a guy from Kentucky who plays guitar and tells stories. He talked about spending time with his children, about the simple pleasure of waking up without a script to memorize or a character to inhabit, about conversations that don't end up in magazines and moments that don't get photographed. "The best parts of my life," he said, "are the parts nobody sees." But here's what makes this even more powerful. Johnny isn't bitter about his journey. He doesn't regret the characters or the fame or even the difficult years. He sees it all as necessary, as the path he needed to take to figure out who he really was underneath it all. "Every character taught me something about myself," he reflected. "Even the painful times, especially the painful times, they were all leading me back to this moment, to this understanding." It's fascinating to think about what this means for his future work. Johnny has several projects in development, but they're different from anything he's done before. Smaller films, personal stories, projects where he can be more himself and less of a character. He's also been mentoring young actors, sharing the wisdom he's gained from his journey. His advice? Don't disappear into the roles. Let the roles disappear into you. It's the advice he wishes someone had given him 40 years ago when he walked into that first audition, terrified of success and unsure of how to be himself in a world that wanted him to be everything else. You know what's truly beautiful about Johnny's revelation? It reminds us that celebrities are just people figuring it out as they go along, just like the rest of us. Behind all the glamour and the red carpets and the movie magic, there's just a human being trying to understand their place in the world. Johnny Depp spent decades being everyone except himself, and in doing so, he entertained millions of people and created characters that will live forever in cinema history. But the real victory isn't in the box office numbers or the awards or the critical acclaim. The real victory is in finally being comfortable in his own skin. "I'm 60 years old," he said with a smile that seemed different from his usual mysterious grin. More open, more genuine. "It's about time I figured out who I am." And maybe that's the most inspiring part of this whole story. It's never too late to find yourself, even if you've spent your entire adult life being someone else. It's never too late to choose authenticity over performance, truth over image, being over seeming. Johnny Depp's shocking revelation isn't about scandal or controversy or hidden secrets. It's about something much more powerful, the courage to finally stop performing and start living. If this story moved you, if Johnny's journey resonates with your own search for authenticity, hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What character or persona have you been hiding behind? What would it look like to just be yourself? And if you want to hear more stories about the real humans behind Hollywood headlines, subscribe and ring that notification bell. Because the truth is always more interesting than the performance. and we're just getting started uncovering it. Until next time, this is Starwire Daily, reminding you that behind every character is a person worth knowing.